How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Zekko football channel. You are watching The Recap, the show where we go through the major talking points from the most recent round of Premier League fixtures. We have a lot to be talking about today, and thankfully, a lot of it will not be surrounding referees. There'll be a couple of things here or there, but for the most part, it will be referee decision free. Thank goodness. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. Right, let's recap. Let's begin with one of the biggest results of the weekend, and that is Arsenal beating Manchester City by 1-0. This was by no means a blockbuster, even though everyone billed it as such. Really, it was two teams that desperately did not want to lose, and that's shown by the attacking momentum bar. Nobody really having too many real high moments. Arsenal did in the second half, Man City did in the first half, and really I thought that Arsenal looked shaky in the first 15 minutes, I want to say. There were a couple of moments that really could have gone against them. David Raya making a couple poor passes, and then there was a couple of moments where a ball was cleared off the line by Declan Rice, and Arsenal really did need to hang in there, but hang in there they did, and then they started to come out and started to play a little bit more, grabbing the momentum of the match and really pulling it into their direction. But really, we actually called this quite well, I want to say. When we did our preview for this match, we actually said that Gabriel Jesus would play on this right-hand side in place of Bukayo Saka. We thought that Trossard would come out onto the left and Nketiah through the middle. We actually even expected Declan Rice to drop that little bit deeper in that double midfield position next to Thomas Partey. It obviously wasn't Partey, it was Jorginho, but he essentially played the same role. And I was very impressed with the way that Arsenal played, Zinchenko coming into midfield and then allowing the expansive football of Arsenal to really play through. But Man City did not allow this through the middle of the pitch, and it was down to the way that Pep Guardiola set up his side. He had Bernardo Silva as this main central defensive midfielder. The back four stayed the same, but what he ended up doing was the two wingers in Foden and in Alvarez ended up coming inside and playing right through the middle of the pitch. This made everything so very narrow and difficult for Arsenal to really play through. The wing play was offset by the fact that Jesus didn't really look comfortable too many times on that right hand side, and Trossard failed to really have the pace to beat Walker. Martinelli did change the game once he came on, but again, against Walker, it was very, very difficult. This was a game of two teams that just did not want to lose. The deflected goal is a bit of a fortunate circumstance for Arsenal, if we're honest. Very unfortunate for Manchester City. But really, it was all about who could take that one singular moment, and it ended up being Arsenal. The two teams, in the way they set up, I was very surprised. I think Pep did it because he wanted to mitigate the exposure that Bernardo Silva was going to get through the middle of the pitch. The way that Arsenal are able to rotate the ball, and the way that Odegaard is really able to highlight his runs, highlight his passes, and switch play a lot of the time. If Pep moved his players through the middle of the pitch, it would stop that and really put a halt to the way that Odegaard played, and actually it worked a treat. I thought that Odegaard was pretty absent throughout the entirety of the match, and it was only down to a bit of magic from Kai Havertz, from Tomiyasu, and then obviously from Gabriel Martinelli that really was able to convert their chance. Bernardo Silva in this central defensive midfield position is interesting. It's interesting that he was picked over Calvin Phillips, but overall it was a game of very, very slim margins. And if we have a look at some of the stats, you can see how equal these two teams were actually. 0.48 XG, 0.39 XG, just neither team really grabbing the game. 51% possession to 49. Arsenal had 12 shots but only 2 on target. Man City only had 1 shot on target. It was really anyone's game and neither team wanted to lose, like I said. It ended up being Arsenal's day, Arsenal's victory, and for the league and for the way that it's going to progress, I think that's huge. Arsenal had to win this game, especially with Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri out. I know they had Saka and Martinelli out for a time, but really, this needed to be Arsenal's victory, and they got it. Doesn't matter how they got it, but they got it. And all of a sudden, we have a title race. And if we're talking about title races, I think Tottenham Hotspur will have something to say about that. Their victory over Luton by 1-0 is something that propels them further up the table. And if we have a look at the attacking momentum bar, it was all Tottenham for the first half, really dominating possession. They should have been, I'd say, 3 or 4-0 up at half-time. There's no disrespect on Luton, I just didn't think they offered anything going the other way. In the end, after the red card, which you can see here happened just before half-time, Luton did start to really really have their presence. They started to have a bit more momentum, but they failed to get the quality through themselves into any kind of creativity or attacking positions. I thought Maddison was very good in this game, but we need to talk about the man himself, Yves Bissouma, because what are you doing, my friend? What are you doing? You're on a yellow card and you decide to dive in front of the referee to con him in around about this area? What are you doing? It was disgraceful, and I think diving should be punished a little bit more. It would stop players from doing it. I don't know what he was thinking. Clearly, he just didn't want to play any more football because he was already going to be suspended due to an extra yellow, so why not get sent off as well? It's just baffling to me. As for the average positions, I thought that Luton were very interesting. They were not really too compact, and that was exploited by Tottenham on numerous occasions. The ability to play through the lines and then over the top really did open up Luton on a numerous amount of occasions. And then we have Tottenham's back four. We have Bissouma taking things along until he got sent off, of course. And I thought Tottenham dealt quite well with the pressure of having 10 men, of getting the goal just after half-time in the 52nd minute. And I thought they did okay. They were all right. Generally, I thought overall, on the balance of shots that were created, on the balance of quality chances that were created, Tottenham definitely deserved to win the match. XG of 1.96 to Luton's 0.76. I thought Luton did okay. They huffed and puffed in the second half, but really there wasn't anything of true quality. Only 4 shots on target for Tottenham, though. They will have wanted a little bit more from their 15 shots in total. Overall, Tottenham, I think, deserved to win the game, but Luton could have had a couple of chances. They just need a little bit more quality. It seems to be the story of their season, but Tottenham will be very happy about that one. And let's end its in-depth recap with Brighton 2, Liverpool 2. Both sides very evenly matched, and I think that's shown by the attacking momentum bar. Neither team really dominated for an extended period. I suppose you could argue Brighton did towards the latter stages of the second half, but overall I thought Liverpool's press was extremely useful in making sure that Brighton looked uncomfortable. Brighton are one of the best ball-playing sides in the league today. I'd argue they're just as good, if not better, than Manchester City, but Liverpool managed to exploit that, and I think it's down to 2 scenarios. Number 1, Liverpool are amazing at pressing, but number 2, Igor and Solly March are just not used to playing these positions. Igor because he hasn't had a lot of match experience, but Solly March because he's not a left back, and this created a disconnect between these 2 players. Positionally, Brighton need to make sure that they know at all times where each other are, and it allows them to be able to play out of presses. But because this side of the pitch wasn't necessarily as cohesive as the other side, it meant that whenever Verbruggen decided to pass over to that side, Liverpool were able to pounce, and that's where the first goal and the penalty come from. They really start to up the ante. They press forwards. Lewis Dunk obviously makes an error. He leaves and vacates his position, and that allows Salah to get in. A beautiful dummy by Harvey Elliott, and then the penalty comes through, again through poor passing, through Liverpool pouncing, setting traps. But that's exactly what Brighton did for Van Dijk and Alexis McAllister for the first goal. Alisson being out of position, we'll talk about that in a moment and why he was so out of position. In fact, let's move to that right now. Let's talk about Alisson. Because if you see here, if you compare Brighton with Liverpool, 2 very attacking sides, 2 sides that really want to go forwards, look at where Verbruggen is. Now that's a normal position for a goalkeeper, isn't it? But if you have a look at Alisson, that's not very normal at all. He's actually out of the box. His average position is out of the penalty area, and that's because what ended up happening is that Joel Matip moved across because Trent Alexander-Arnold came into midfield. This partnered Alexis McAllister and gave not only a little bit more defensive solidity, but also a little bit more control further up the pitch. It allowed Trent to be able to get closer, to be able to make those passes over into those channels and get Liverpool a little bit more direct, further up the pitch, a little bit faster. Now in doing this, Alisson ended up moving forwards into something of a centre-back role. We've seen Manuel Neuer do this a lot, and really it was almost adding an extra player into that 10-man set outside of the penalty area, and it allowed Liverpool to have a little bit more control. But what it ended up doing was that Brighton just sat and set traps, and because of the traps it meant that Alexis McAllister was just overwhelmed on certain occasions, and that's where the first goal comes from. The second goal is something that Andy Robertson needed to clear, and it's just a mistake. A beautiful cross by Solly March and very well put in by Lewis Dunk, obviously making up for that horrendous error that he had for one of Liverpool's goals. But again, it was extremely evenly matched. I thought that both sides were very good. I want to mention Adingra really quick because he was electric. Very impressive. Balaba as well was fantastic. Overall, it was an extremely entertaining game to watch and just fantastic. And really, I just want to mention this: 2.32 XG for Brighton, 2.35 XG for Liverpool. 54% to 46%, 14 shots on target for both of them. One had 4, one had 3. It was so evenly matched, it is crazy. Honestly, it was so even. And it just goes to show how good of a side Brighton are now and how good of a side Liverpool are. It was one of the best games of the weekend for me, tactically, but also from an athletic point of view, from a footballing point of view. It was a brilliant game to watch, and if you haven't seen the highlights, once you've finished watching this video, of course, go and check them out, because they're worth a watch. De Zerbi and Klopp, two fantastic managers. Yeah, it was just a great game of football, and I think both teams should be happy with the performances they put in as they share the points. And before we end, let's take a look at some of the results from around the grounds. Fulham beating Sheffield United by 3-1. Big bounce back for Fulham, but Sheffield United are still yet to get a win on the board. It's not looking good. Everton beating Bournemouth by 3-0. Everton really needed that. They're starting to go on a bit of a run now, aren't they? James Garner and Jack Harrison getting on the score sheet. Dominic Calvert-Lewin looking very, very dangerous, but Bournemouth on the other side looking quite poor. I didn't see too much attacking intent from them. I thought they could have done a little bit better, and I know they have players out, but it needs to start getting better soon. Speaking of getting better, Chelsea have beaten Burnley by 4-1. Cole Palmer really being the stand-up performer in this, and I thought that Raheem Sterling put in a very, very good performance. Chelsea are starting to grind out results, and this is a huge one against Burnley. Really, really impressive performance. Manchester United somehow, some way beating Brentford by 2-1. Both goals coming after the 90th minute. It's a crazy, crazy game. But Brentford, I really did think were going to go on and win that game. They looked defensively solid, they looked resolute. Manchester United failed to create any chances and were poor yet again. It's actually the first time that Manchester United have gone into the 90th minute and extra time being down, actually conceding a goal and then coming back to win the match. Madness. Crystal Palace drawing with Nottingham Forest 0-0. Considering the players that Palace have out, they have Eze out, they have Elise out. I think this is a really good point for Palace. Forest, obviously, without Awani. And then you have Callum Hudson-Odoi trying to get back into the side. Morgan Gibbs-White looking very, very dangerous, but it ended all square. As did Wolverhampton Wanderers against Aston Villa, the Midlands derby. What a game this was. It was really entertaining, actually. I thought Wolves did quite a good job. They're starting to creep up and starting to gain some momentum under Gary O'Neill. I thought they actually could have won it on certain occasions. Hwang Hee-chan getting another goal. Pedro Neto looking as dangerous as ever, but I'd like to see Mateus Cunha do a little bit more. I thought that Aston Villa looked okay. Ollie Watkins really marked out of it though. Moussa Diaby failing to really add in something, and then there's Matty Cash out on this right hand side, who I didn't think had a great game. West Ham drawing with Newcastle 2 each. Is this a hangover from Newcastle's game against Paris Saint-Germain in midweek? West Ham obviously played as well, but they had a late equaliser with Mohamed Kudus. It really looks to be looking to knock on the door and establish himself into this side. Well, those are all the results. Let's take a look at the Premier League table. And as you can see, Sheffield United and Bournemouth are at the bottom in 19th and 20th place, respectively. Sheffield United and Bournemouth, both sides yet to get a win in the Premier League this season. Moving up, we have Wolves climbing into 14th. I think Wolves fans would have taken this going into another international break. They've done very, very well, beating Manchester City, drawing with Aston Villa, not too bad at all. Then you have Manchester United and Chelsea in 10th and 11th, both receiving wins going into that international break. Very, very important. Then you move up and you've got Newcastle, you've got West Ham, Brighton in 6th, but Aston Villa sitting pretty in 5th. There's likely going to be another Champions League place this year, and Aston Villa could be in contention for it. Liverpool are in 4th after their draw with Brighton, which means that Man City are in 3rd following their defeat to Arsenal. What a result that was for the table. Is there a title race? I think there might be, because the two North London clubs are the only two sides that are unbeaten in the Premier League this season so far, and both are top of the table with 20 points. But my question to you is, with only 8 games gone, who's winning the Premier League title? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.